I'm going to explain the rules of Humanity, a game for 2 to 4 players by Johan Levet, with artwork by Fred Ogis, Paul Chadesson, Pierre Lazarevic, and Rémi Paul, and published by Bombix. Humanity is a game of anticipation, not only because what you're about to experience could actually take place 50 years from now, but also because it's essential to plan your actions in advance. In this game, you will join a team of astronauts who have 3 years to develop a base on Titan by deploying production, research, and greenhouse modules. You'll also carry out scientific experiments to advance on the research track, plus complete mission to advance on the score track to try to win the game. Put the main board in the center of the table with the articulated arm on the hanger with the red mark. Each player chooses an astronaut and takes all of the components of their color: the game aid, the 4 starting model tiles, the 3 obstacle tiles, the research and score markers, the 6 work tokens, and the 3 astronaut figurines. Insert a work token with side 2 up into each of your astronauts' stands. Set up your base by placing the tiles as shown on the game aid. Respect the direction of the tiles and the 2 astronauts. The third is set aside for the moment. Arrange the secondary board, science tokens, and victory points next to it. Place your research and score markers on the first space of the corresponding tracks. Sort the mission tiles into 3 piles, A, B, and C, and shuffle each pile separately. Draw 1 tile from each, place them in their slots on the secondary board, and add a science token to the designated spaces. The unused tiles will not be used during the game and can be put back in the box. Choose your start player and give them the Humanity patch. Everyone places their 3rd astronaut around the main board like this, depending on the number of players and their turn order. Sort the 45 module tiles into 3 piles according to the year: 1, 2, and 3. Shuffle each pile, then place them face down on the table. From the year 1 pile, draw 7 modules and place them face up on the hangers of the board. Sort and shuffle the science experiment tiles in the same way. Place 7 experiments from year 1 face up on the spaces on the board. Unused experiments can be put back in the box, and the 2 piles for years 2 and 3 are set aside face down. Sort the 5 additional communication model tiles by year and place them next to the board. A game of Humanity is played over 3 years, 3 rounds, each consisting of several game turns. On your turn, use an astronaut to perform 1 action. It is then the turn of the player to your left, and so on. When no one else can use an astronaut, the board is reset and a new round begins. When there are no longer enough tiles from the current year to reset the board, we move on to the next year. At the end of the 3rd year, the victory points are counted. When it's your turn, you can perform 1 of 3 actions: work on the base, deploy a module, or carry out an experiment. To work on the base, choose an active astronaut, meaning one who is present in your base and facing you, then use their work points to activate 1 or more tiles in your base. The tiles that can be activated using your astronaut's work point are those marked with this symbol, of which there are 2 types: modules and obstacles. Modules with 1 symbol require 1 work point to activate them, while those marked with 2 require 2 of your astronaut's work points. The modules you activate produce resources that are stored until they are spent. These may be basic resources such as ice, methane, or insects. They can also be advanced resources such as oxygen, air carbon, or protein preparation. Each time you activate a module, turn it a quarter turn clockwise to gain the resource in question. Your available stock is shown at the bottom of the tile facing you. Once your stock of a resource has reached its maximum, you can no longer activate the tile until you've spent those resources. Important: when you activate a production module marked with the time symbol, its effect is applied immediately. The tile is not turned. Move all your astronauts 1 by 1 hanger counterclockwise around the main board without passing the articulated arm. You can choose to activate an obstacle, making it lose 1 resistance point each time. As soon as the research point symbol reaches the bottom of the tile, the obstacle is destroyed. Earn 3 research points by moving your marker forward on the corresponding track and remove the obstacle from the game. This free space can now be used. In Humanity, there are 2 tracks, the score track and the research track. During the game, for each victory point earned, move forward 1 space on the score track. To advance on the research track, you must earn research points. At the end of each year, depending on how far you've moved forward on this track, you'll earn science tokens, which are placed behind your game aid. When you've completed your activations, turn the astronaut just used to face away from you. They are no longer active and can no longer be used during this game turn. To deploy a module, choose the one you want to deploy from the main board, even if there's another astronaut positioned in front of it. Spend the resources indicated on the module. To do this, select the modules on your base that have at least 1 resource in stock and turn them a quarter turn counterclockwise as many times as necessary to spend the required resources within the limit of your available stocks. Once a module has reached 0, you can't spend any more of this resource until you have produced new ones. You can spend 3 identical basic resources at any time instead of a corresponding advanced resource. Electricity is a special resource that replaces any basic resource when needed. Next, move an active astronaut from your base in front of the module. It will remain in this location until you're able to retrieve it. It is then no longer active and cannot be used to perform any actions. Place the module in your base, in the direction shown in the illustration, and in the space where the astronaut who deployed it was located. Please note, however, that greenhouse modules have their own rules. You can't have 2 of the same type next to each other, 3 connected greenhouses must be of 3 different types, and you can't deploy more than 3 connected greenhouses. If you deploy a single greenhouse, place 1 victory point on it and move forward by the same amount on the score track. If you deploy a different greenhouse adjacent to another, place 2 victory points on it and move forward on the score track. If you deploy the third different greenhouse that makes up a set of 3, place 3 points on it and move forward on the score track. When you deploy a communication module like this one, choose whether it's blue or orange by taking the corresponding tile from the current year's reserve of extra modules and place it in your base. If it is marked on the module, you immediately earn research points on the research track or a victory point on the score track. In addition, a research module earns the number of research points represented for each adjacent module of the indicated color, whether at the time it is deployed or later when another module is deployed next to it. Now check whether your new module completes a square of 4 modules. If it does, you immediately earn a victory point token, which you can place at the intersection of the 4 modules and move forward 1 space on the score track. You then check the number of colors that make up the square you've just completed. If it's composed of 1 or 2 module colors, you increase the work value of any one of your astronauts by 1 point, whether they're in the base or around the main board, active or not. If you need to upgrade your astronauts by more than 1 point because you've completed several squares at the same time, distribute the upgrades as you desire between your astronauts. You've seen how to work on the base and deploy a module, but you can also carry out an experiment which can earn you victory points the moment you validate it. To earn as many points as possible, try to form groups of 3 experiments of different types. You can form a group of experiments in any order, and you can even start several groups at the same time. Start by choosing an experiment on the main board, even if another astronaut is positioned in front of it. Spend the resources indicated on the experiment by taking them from your base as previously described, and move an active astronaut from your base in front of the chosen experiment. Place the experiment next to your base. If it is the first experiment of a group, you earn nothing. If it's the second experiment of a group, you earn 1 point on the score track. If it's the third, you earn 2 points. If a victory point is shown on the tile, earn it immediately and add it to your score track. You then earn the indicated number of research points by moving forward on the research track, and then apply any effects. This may be to immediately reactivate all astronauts present in your base, turn them to face you to signify this. You can use them again on your next turn. You can also immediately benefit from 2 time units. To do this, move all your astronauts around the main board by 2 hangars in a counterclockwise direction without moving them beyond the articulated arm. At the end of your turn, check whether you've completed the mission. If you're the first to complete one, take the associated science token and place it behind your game aid. You also take the mission tile that you place in plain view in front of you and immediately earn 3 victory points at the score track. You keep the science token until the end of the game. However, the mission tile can be stolen from you if another player does better than you in carrying out the mission. In this case, the new player earns 3 points, while you lost 3 points on the score track. The tile can circulate in this way during the game. When you've completed your action and checked your missions, it's the turn of the player to your left and so on. When you have no more active astronauts in your base, skip your turn. When no one else has an active astronaut, the game round is over and you move on to reset the board for the next game round. The patch token is then passed to the next player in a clockwise direction. If the first 2 modules under the white crosses have not been deployed, they are removed from the game. Shift the remaining modules clockwise around the main board without leaving any empty hangars between them, then turn the articulated arm in the same direction until it arrives on the last empty hangar. All astronauts overtaken by the articulated arm are returned to their players. The astronauts in front of the articulated arm, as well as those not overtaken, remain around the main board. Fill the empty hangars in a clockwise direction with new modules from the current year, while the experiment wheel will remain as it is until the end of the year. If you don't manage to fill all the hangars with modules because the deck has run out, the end of the year is triggered. Otherwise, return the astronauts you've recovered back to your base. An astronaut must be placed facing you, orthogonally adjacent to at least 1 module. All your astronauts are now active, and a new game round can begin. If the end of the year is triggered, you earn as many science tokens as the highest number you've reached on the research track, plus an extra token for each research marker behind you on this track. In a 2-player game, whoever is in the lead earns 2 science tokens. Place them behind your game aid and return your research marker to the start space of the track. Remove all experiments from the main board and replace them with 7 experiments from the following year. Fill the hangars with modules of this same year too. Modules from the previous year remain around the main board. Place the astronauts you've recovered back in your base. An astronaut must always be placed in an active position and adjacent to at least 1 module. All your astronauts are now active, and a new game round can begin. At the end of the 3rd year, the game is over. Determine the research track score, then earn 1 victory point on the score track for each science token you have behind your game aid. Earn 1 victory point for each group of 5 resources, basic or advanced, remaining in your supply in your base. Whoever is in the lead on the score track wins the game. In case of a tie, the player with the most electricity wins the game. In case of another tie, compare these values in order: the number of advanced resources, then the number of basic resources. Enjoy your game!